The Vancouver Canucks. The mess continues. What a disaster. Welcome to the channel if you're a new subscriber. I'm John here from Hot Take Hockey. Hit the like button, hit the comments down below with your thoughts on the Vancouver Canucks. And they've hired Rick Tocchet. So they fired Bruce Boudreau. I think how they handled that situation, I already made a couple of videos. So if you guys want to go check out a couple of rants. But this one will be a rant too a little bit. I want this to be informative as well as a rant. So thank you for clicking on the video and for sharing your thoughts. I'll share my thoughts here. Yeah, how they handled the Bruce Boudreau situation, I'll continue to say. Disaster, disrespectful, and just unprofessional in my eyes in so many different regards. I think this organization, it's been tough. I love the passion that comes from this organization in a lot of ways. Obviously, the past, we've seen a lot of different things come out, and more recently, different things coming out that paints this organization in a bad light. And I do think that Bruce Boudreau was kind of the next wave of that. They brought him in. There was a big momentum shift last season, and Bruce, there it is. That was the conversation, right? But this year, back to the shift of negative press, negative behind the scenes, and just not good hockey and not good product, as I said, on the ice. So Rick Tocchet, what can Rick Tocchet bring to this team? I know there's a lot of negatives, and people will talk about Rick Tocchet limiting guys in Arizona and just certain things like problems or maybe relationship issues with players. You know what? Rick Tocchet, former player, I think this is a guy that's coming into a familiar situation. Rick Tocchet, Patrick Allvin, Jim Rutherford, like these three guys were together in Pittsburgh. And Sergei Gonchar, who's also being brought in as an assistant, or Adam Foote, the assistant, and Sergei Gonchar, he's more on the defensive side. These are guys that Tocchet's familiar with, and more so Gonchar was an assistant with Pittsburgh. So there's the Pittsburgh Penguins effect here. I don't know if they're looking for that Stanley Cup pedigree, but I think the issues in Tocchet addressed it. I'm going to go over the press conference. So I do also want to make that clear. I'm recording this video after the press conference has happened. So that's where also my different perspective is here versus like if I just made a quick reaction video after it happened. To me, I didn't really want to do that because I already made my video based on how the rumors were coming out and the reports. This is more added effect and more added, I would say, information because I did watch the whole press conference. So I'm adding that in. But Rick Tocchet outlined it. Defensive issues, PK being one of, if not the worst in the league, and just goals against has been a huge issue. So Rick Tocchet and the guys coming in, Adam Foote, Sergei Gonchar, like these are legends on the back end coming in to support a weaker defensive team and a team that might go through big shifts the rest of the season. And they also outlined in the press conference, I'll go over a bunch of stuff. Höglander and Podkolzin potentially coming up. Rick Tocchet having familiar faces in the dressing room, including Connor Garland, OEL, Luke Schenn, guys that Rick Tocchet has coached. So two guys that I just outlined there are defensemen. I do wonder if because of that situation, Tocchet can turn OEL a little bit around, but there was rumors that Tocchet and OEL didn't get along. And then the opposite side of Luke Schenn being a pending UFA, does this help the case of Luke Schenn staying or not? There's just so many different things to outline here. I do think another thing I pulled from the press conference is Rutherford gets too direct, and he actually called himself out. He even said that he was like, I need to hand this over to Allvin. This is not going to work out because I'm too direct on things. It's just the dynamic was funny. I also think like a few times, as you guys see in the thumbnail, it's just looking at the facial reactions of both Rutherford and Allvin, just kind of seeing what Tocchet says. And I think the fact that Tocchet was on TNT and he has that kind of personality and he's very vocal, I think it also helps this case versus a guy that's maybe more quiet, because if there's one issue the Canucks have, I would like, it's PR. Like right at the top, it's PR. Their PR is horrendous right now. You can't even give the benefit of the doubt, whether, as I've talked about, the Rachel Doerrie situation or anything you want to go down the list. The benefit of the doubt is gone because the PR nightmare has continued for the Canucks. And most recently this weekend, how they handled Boudreau. I mean, that was so emotional. I mean, seeing how Boudreau was taken in the fans, respects to the Canucks fans that were giving Boudreau respect, and just even asking why he was still there. And Rick Tocchet is coming in with the Canucks having a favorable schedule, and that's kind of what Boudreau also outlined. So I watched the whole press conference, as I said. I really think the Canucks are a mess in terms of not just the coaching situation or even the players on the ice. I think they're just a mess in terms of direction, because you're bringing in a guy at this point of the season, and it's like, what direction? You're like, what, 14, 12, like around, they've been out of the playoffs by a significant margin, and I've been clueless enough to think that they would turn it around, and maybe they do. But this is a situation where we're almost in February. Even if you turn it around, what's the percentage of them actually making the playoffs? So you get that much closer, what? Just to miss out on Bedard's sweepstakes and not make the playoffs? That's the same old thing we've seen. And that's why the Canucks fans are so frustrated. The lack of direction, the lack of purpose. And then coming out of the season, what? They're going to get a 7th overall pick, 8th overall pick, and miss the playoffs again. And what's going to happen? Bo Horvat's going to get traded and Kuzmenko's going to get re-signed. And then they're just going to keep bringing in wingers. And Pettersson's going to be by himself. And then the defense will still be weak. Thatcher Demko will be that conversation piece because if he can come in and get some confidence back, then at least the Canucks can rely on him again. And maybe they'll actually have proper asset management and maybe trade a guy when he's at his high. And that's a Kuzmenko situation. Go check out my video, guys. I made it recently. Kuzmenko should get dealt because you can get the most assets for him right now versus signing him to a long-term deal and then getting that locked in. I think that's why you make those other deals and keep a guy like Bo Horvat. That's a guy you want in your dressing room. JT Miller, and I like what Rick Tocchet said. You can criticize a bunch of things that Tocchet said in that interview or the presser, but the one thing I liked that he said was JT Miller should not be forced into these situations he cannot succeed in. JT Miller's a specialist kind of player. He's a power play specialist kind of player. He's an opportunistic kind of player. Playing those matchup games with JT Miller consistently is really tough to do, and I like the fact that Tocchet outlined that, and that's going to change. And again, back to the defensive structure, back to the team defensive structure. And I just wanted to go over a bunch of things, guys. A little bit rambling on, but the Vancouver Canucks have so many issues to cover. I don't know if I like this move, as I said. But the people that are just blindly bashing it, I understand the Arizona experiment, all these things. But if there's one thing, as I said, that the Canucks need to improve on the ice, it's those defensive situations, whether it's on the penalty kill, 5-on-5. Their defensive situations and goals against have been a problem, and Rick Tocchet would come in and, while, as he outlined, not diminish the offense, but balance it out and have focus on those areas. It's these moral victories, we've talked about with the Leafs in the past, these moral victories, they only get you so far. And I really do think the Canucks really need to look at the situation and just decide a freaking direction. Are we trading these guys? Kuzmenko, Horvat, go down the list. If you're trading those guys, trade them and get assets. Luke Schenn will get a decent asset. I could say right now, I'm confident Luke Schenn, if they were to trade him, will get at least a second-round pick. Minimum. Bare minimum, at least a second-round pick. I'd be surprised if he doesn't. I just think right shot guy, the physicality, the way he's played this season, he's had a great season. Unreal season. I think he gets at least a second-round pick. Right shot. Big Luke Schenn. He's been a beast. Bo Horvat. They want right now, the report right now is they want 3 roster players and a prospect. Get their first-round picks. This is such a deep draft. I think this is a fail. If the Canucks don't have 3 first-round picks in this draft, I think it's a fail deadline. Based on the guys that are in the market right now and based on the guys that the Canucks could deal, as I said, Horvat, Kuzmenko, Schenn, go down the list. If the Canucks don't get at least 2 more first-round picks, it's a fail. Why are you going for roster players when we're talking about Höglander and Podkolzin coming up? Just fill in random roster spots? Let Höglander and Podkolzin play. Or at least have a direction. As I said, if they're going to stay in the AHL, it shouldn't be because you're bringing roster players back in a trade for Bo Horvat. It's because just other guys are outperforming them and you're comfortable with leaving them in the AHL for development reasons. Not because you're bringing other roster guys in that are taking their spots. So there's just so many different problems of direction with the Vancouver Canucks. Build. Freaking build around Pettersson. Build around Hughes. Don't be just bringing in these roster guys just to fill holes. And as much as I said, at the time I was iffy. I was back and forth. I was like, you know what? I like the Garland bet. And I thought the Canucks in that situation would go in a solid direction. I thought the OEL contract was just so risky, but now that the Coyotes have Dylan Guenther to show for it, it just looks so bad because Garland hasn't played to the potential that I thought he would. He really hasn't. So that's been the huge problem in that deal because I think if Garland played to the potential that I thought he would, it would have offset the struggle of looking at that OEL contract. So there's just so many things. I can honestly talk here for so long. I'm at the spot where the Wi-Fi is not the best, so I wanted to keep making videos and make live streams, but you guys have been awesome. I want to keep going, get the views and the people buzzing again on the channel because I have been kind of lacking and YouTube algorithms hitting. But Canucks, this is the conversation it's been. We're going to keep talking about the Canucks in terms of trades, but I wanted to cover the press conference and the coaching change and everything kind of behind the scenes and what's going to happen with the Canucks going forward. Because again, pick a direction. That's where I'll leave the video. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like and the notification bell. I really do appreciate the support. Any other questions about the press conference or anything else? I did watch the whole thing, so if you missed it, just drop a comment. Drop any kind of take down below. And yeah, shoot me a DM on social and I got back to you. So as I said, subscribe, like, comment, notification bell. This was John from Hockey. Have a good one. Peace out.